Thank you so much for watching the Louie File. I'm glad you joined me today. I'm going to spend a little bit of time today talking with you about the Apostle Paul and what his mission really was, according to the Bible, according to the Scriptures, what it was that he thought or he believed was his calling, and I'm hoping that this will bring a little bit of light and understanding to his very letters that he wrote to the churches that we discover in the New Testament. I've kind of let's start in Acts chapter 9. I'm going to read a verse or two in Acts chapter 9, then we're going to jump to Acts 26 to establish where it is that I'm coming from, and then we'll move on into some of the Apostle Paul's letters. So in Acts chapter 9, for those of you that aren't familiar, this is the story of Paul's conversion. He starts out in Acts chapter 9 as a man named Saul, and it says he was breathing out threats and murder, and he was violent. He was a very intense follower of the Jewish traditions. In Philippians 3 it says that he was a Hebrew of Hebrews. He was a Jew of Jews. He said he was circumcised on the 8th day. He was top of his class. He was a full-blooded Jew. He was zealous for the law. I mean, he was the man. When it came to following the Mosaic system, Paul was top-notch. But as you read in Philippians 3, he says that all of that was like dung. It was a pile of boop, boop. It was a pile compared to knowing Jesus Christ. Now, I try to make this as family-friendly as I can. So now, but what happens to him in Acts chapter 9 transforms him and the world, I would say, forever. God himself chooses the Apostle Paul. Now let me get back to this. His name was Saul. After his conversion, he becomes a Christian. He starts going by the name Paul. Saul, I believe, is probably he was named after the first king of Israel, King Saul. And King Saul was a very tall man. He was a very dominating figure among men, and he became the first king of Israel. And he saw himself small in his own eyes, King Saul did. Then midway, 3/4 of the way into his kingship, he starts getting full of himself, and he thinks that he's somebody. So I see the Apostle Paul as, in a sense, he's a reversal of that. He starts off as Saul, who thinks he's something, and God transforms him into the Apostle Paul, it actually means small. So the Apostle Paul, who used to be Saul, has now become small. Well, it's like Dr. Seuss, isn't it? So, without any more silliness, let's move along into Acts chapter 9. We see the conversion experience. Saul is on his way to Damascus to persecute, lock up, and kill Christians. Pretty astounding, hateful thing. But you know what? He thought he was doing God's will. And the funny thing is, Jesus even said this, that this was going to happen. That they're going to think that persecuting you is doing God's will. And that's exactly what Saul is doing here. So he's on his way to do this, and a light comes across his path, and a voice says, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" So Jesus himself, the risen Jesus Christ, appears to this man Saul and tells him, "What are you doing? Why are you fighting against me?" And he doesn't understand it. Saul says, "Well, who are you?" And he says, "I'm the Lord. I'm Jesus Christ whom you're persecuting." And he says, "Get up and go where I tell you." So the Apostle Paul here loses his sight for 3 days. But God calls a man named Ananias to go and lay hands on him so he can regain his sight. Now, I know I'm telling a lot of backstory here, but I'm going to take my time with this, and I'm going to give you an overview, and it may take a few videos to do so, about the Apostle Paul and where his mindset was at when he wrote his letters and what happened to him. So I don't want to glance through this too fast. But if you will, look in Acts chapter 9, verse 15 and 16. This is what the Lord tells Ananias to tell Saul, or Paul at this point. It says, "But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen instrument," some Bibles may say vessel, "of mine, to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake." So Paul has been He's told what his mission is. His mission is look, you're a chosen instrument or vessel of mine, and you're going to suffer for my name's sake, but you're going to bear my name. You're going to declare my name before Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel. And it's going to be painful, and it's going to be rough. It's going to be full of suffering, but you're going to do it because you're called to do it. So now that's Acts 9. If you jump ahead into Acts 26, we see the Apostle Paul standing in front of one of his many times in front of kings, because he was dragged into court all the time for preaching the gospel. So Acts 26, he's recounting this story, and he gives us a little more detail. And this is what I want to establish today. Acts 26, starting in verse 14. I'm going to read several verses here, 14 through 18. It says, and when we had fallen to the ground, this is Paul testifying, when we had fallen to the ground, I heard a voice saying to me in the Hebrew dialect, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. And I said, who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. But get up and stand on your feet, for this purpose I have appeared to you, to appoint you a minister and a witness, not only to the things which you have seen, but also to the things in which I will appear to you, rescuing you from the Jewish people and from the Gentiles to whom I'm sending you, to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light. Listen to this. And from the dominion of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who have been sanctified by faith in me. Oh my gosh, there it is, folks. This is what he saw his role to be, was to open the eyes of blinded people that they might turn from darkness to light. Look at this. And turn from the dominion of Satan to God, so they can receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who have been sanctified by faith in me. Wow. So Paul was being sent to the world full of people that were under the power of demonic forces. Now, you may think, well, Louie, come on now, that's a little bit old-fashioned. We know that we have mental illness and emotional disturbances, and we have all kinds of family problems and mental disorders, and we have medication and psychiatry. Well, I'm not here to tell you that none of that's good or none of that works, but what I'm here to share with you is what the Bible teaches. That's what I'm here for. Now, you can take it up with the Bible yourself, what you think about these things. But I will say this. Jesus himself did believe in unseen forces that were opposed to him and his kingdom. He cast unclean spirits out of people throughout his earthly ministry, and that, I would say, has been happening ever since. Some of it could be this, some of it could be that. What I want to focus on here is that Paul himself is declaring that his role is to open blind eyes and turn people from darkness and turn people from Satan to the light and to God. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next few videos. I hope you will join me as we weed through and dig through and see what Paul is really saying to us about these factors in the upcoming videos. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that this has helped you today. See you next time.